chapter 25, 3.25.22. I'll find it. 3.25.22. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I was pointing to this, so you want to show 3.25.22. Would that be nice? Possible? More than possible. It's practically done. So, here's the verse. I'll wait for the verse to come up. The background is beginning of chapter 25. This is the first of a whole series where Devahuti is speaking to her son, Kapila Dev. And chapter 24, renunciation of Kardamoni. He's gone, beginning of chapter 25. And Devahuti wants to know, after some time, you're also going to go, and how am I going to maintain my life and devotion after you're gone? And for that matter, how do I develop my life and devotion now before you're gone? And he gives a quick answer at the beginning of chapter 25, which was by association with devotees, the Sadhu Sangha. And then he says a number of other things. And then starting in verse 20 through 27, he touches the topic again. 8 verses. Sadhu Sangastaka, 8 verses. So I'm covering 22 because just before here I spoke on 2021. 20 is a restatement of the principle, Sadhu Sangha. 21 is a description of the qualities of a sadhu. So if Sadhu Sangha is important, how do you determine who's a sadhu? What are the characteristics, lakshana? So then that's 21. Now it's 22. There we go. The verse, Sanskrit. Mai ananya bhavena bhaktim kurvanti ye dridham matkrite tyakta karmanas takyasva jana bhanava. Translation: such as sadhu engages in staunch devotional service to the Lord without deviation. Mai ananya bhavena. For the sake of the Lord, he renounces all other connection. Matkrite tyaktva karmanas, such as family relations and friendly acquaintances within the world. No, it doesn't mean go to the forest, folks. Let's find out what it means. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. A person in the renounced order of life, a sannyasi, is also called a sadhu. Now, was Kardamoni considered a sadhu? Yes. When he was married? Yes. After he was married? Yes. Is it dependent upon being married or not married? No. Because he renounces everything, his home, his comfort, his friends, his relatives, and his duties to friends and to family. He renounces everything for the sake of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A sannyasi is generally in the renounced order of life. Wait a minute. Generally? But his renunciation will be successful only when his energy is employed in the service of the Lord with great austerity. Is said here, therefore, bhaktim kurvanti ye dridham. A person who seriously engages in the service of the Lord and is in the renounced order of life as a sadhu. A sadhu is one who has given up all responsibility to society, family, and worldly humanitarianism simply for the service of the Lord. As soon as he takes his birth in the world, a person has so many responsibilities and obligations to the public, to the demigods, to the great sages, to the great living beings, to his parents, to his family, forefathers, and many others. When he gives up all such obligations for the sake of the service of the Supreme Lord, he is not punished for such renunciation of obligation, but if, for sense gratification, a person renounces all such obligations, he is punished by the law of nature. So the generally, this is going to be a short class, Prabhus, generally indicates something unspoken in the verse, but sometimes Prabhupada would say a grahasta who follows by the same standards of dedicating everything and follows principles, regular principles, etc., is a grahasta, what do you call it? Grahasta sannyasi, grahasta brahmachari. So, congratulations, everybody. The operative principle is dedication to the Supreme Lord's service. Mai ananya yogena, mai ananya bhavena. And then bhaktim kurvanti ye dridham. Bhaktim kurvanti. He performs devotional service. This dridha, very dedicated, staunch devotional service. That's a sadhu. Now, the sadhu may be a sannyasi, and a sannyasi may be in the renounced order of life. Generally is. But may also not be. So the training, let's go back to the context. Devahuti's missing, they were married, whatever the number is, I forget, tens of thousands of years. It's a long time to be married, right? Tens of thousands of years. And serving faithfully, and very happy serving faithfully. And he recognized karma when he recognized all of that. And going back, he was awarded Devahuti as his wife because prior to being married, he had a desire that the personality of Godhead would become his son. So that's normally done with a wife. And so an arrangement was made. Lord Brahma said, no, Vishnu came and said, tomorrow, the next day, your wife is going to come. And say yes. It's pretty easy. Marriage arranger, Lord Vishnu himself. Just say yes. Okay, he said yes. And there was a condition. The condition was, yes, not but yes. And when there's a son that's of age to maintain your daughter, Devahuti, then I'll return to the forest. So that condition was agreed upon. And then they married right there in the forest. And for tens of thousands of years, some long duration of time, she's happily, she wasn't otherwise, happily. And then to point, he A and B, he recognized she served so faithfully, and B, she desires to have a child. Of course, he did too. So then the arrangements were made. Some daughters were there, and then Kapila Dev, the son. And after Kapila Dev became mature, the last chapter, he went away. With the blessings, he didn't just, leave in the middle of the night. He got blessings to perform that kind of service, and it was approved. And so he went. And now there she is. So that's the scene. and Sadhu Sangha and the characteristics of a sadhu, Titikshava Krunika, that's the previous verse. Surada Sarvadehinam, Agyata Chatravat Shanta, Sadhava Sadhubhushanam. The bhushana, the ornaments of a sadhu are those. And those are qualities. And then in addition is what he does. Those who have qualities do something. And unalloyed devotional service. Ananya, ananyena, mai ananyena, bhavena. Now, bhava is a stage of bhakti, but bhavena, devotional service in the word for word. Mai ananyena bhavena. You'll find such persons. Good luck. But are there such persons? There are such persons. And it doesn't say that such persons have to reach the Uttama Adhikari stage. That's ideal. Or Prabhupada sometimes, along with Uttama Adhikari, indicates Mahabhagavata, topmost stage. But it's not that if someone's not on the topmost stage, it's not. If someone's not on the topmost stage, they're not a sadhu. And they're not persons that you should seek their association. That this sadhu is mai ananyena bhavena. Undivided devotional service. In that undivided devotional service, there's shelter, which means that person is protected, and those who take shelter of those who are protected by bhakti, which means by Krishna's internal potency. And that undivided devotional service, supposing you try to become an undivided devotee, like this is describing. Well, what if you're not there yet? What if? We're not there yet. So no, is that a mai ananya bhavena person? Yes. What? It's the sadhana stage of the mature stage. Or within a seed, within the sprout of the seed, within the plant that has a few leaves, within that which is mature and produces flowers and fruits, they're stages of the same thing. So it's just stay with it. Stay with the sadhana, with submission to those teachings. We had a discussion with your father yesterday about truth. And, as opposed to, is the essence, or is the essence the rules and regulations? Well, the essence is the essence. And when one is situated in the essence, they follow rules and regulations. And those who are situated in the essence, that is, their mission, their purpose is to make that connection with the absolute truth, that which is the source of everything. There may be a less or greater clear idea of what that is, but striving for that according to the rules and regulations. Even if you're not there yet. That fits the category of sadhu. Because the previous was, these are the characteristics, and then here, this is what they do. So you may not have all those characteristics. And you may not always be engaged in devotional service. There may be, you look left and you look right and you blink. And there's mixed devotional service where it's not undivided devotional service. However, if you're sincerely accepting that is the goal, and you're following the sadhanas to help you get to that goal, within that little seedling is, in time, the mature plant or mature tree. or mature vegetable or whatever it is. So that then produces other seeds, because that's what mature plants and trees do. They produce that which will create more of the same by nature's arrangement. So beyond that, the sadhu is one who's at this Uttama Adhikari or the Mahabhagavata stage, or one who's striving. Little emphasis. It's important. Is it important? It's important to have a clear idea what the goal is and continue to strive for the goal. Supposing you have a clear idea in the beginning and then you become complacent. Supposing that happens. Does that happen? That happens. So we should continue, reinvest by Sadhu Sangha in what the goal is. And be reminded and reinvest ourselves, our intention, our purpose, even though we're not there yet, for the goal. Prabhupada would describe in different language, perfection, or samadhi, or here's Mai Ananyena Bhavena. That's the goal. Unmixed. Even if you're not there yet, that's the goal. So be clear what the goal is and continue striving towards that goal. And then you become, according to this definition, sadhu, even if you're not there yet at the perfectional stage. I'm repeating myself a few times just so that it's clear. And supposing now we want Sadhu Sangha, and we see over there's somebody that has this flaw and makes that mistake, or something and something and something. So we're not, the evaluation is the striving. It's a bit unseen, because you can see behaviors, you can't necessarily see the intention behind the behaviors. But when there's intention behind the behaviors, there's a built-in Krishna course correction system. It's a very fantastic GPS. Built-in course, that is, Krishna removes the covering. Supposing there isn't that commitment to the goal, then the course is kind of all over the place. So it's important to reevaluate, and it's one of these things that a devotee is required to do, is be introspective. This search for truth topic we were discussing yesterday. Be honest and evaluate, and I'm not there yet. In what ways am I not there yet? What are some things that I can do to move towards what there is, and be sure what there is? And then the things that are doable for me there's going to be sometimes not unsteadiness, because we're not there yet. That's okay. It's part of getting there. And then recommit. And keep sadhu sangha, because then the sadhu, the non-judgmental sadhu, can tap you on the shoulder and say, Prabhuji, you're heading for the ditch. Please go back to the center of the road. Or whatever. You can go to the sadhu and say, I'm heading for the ditch, what do I do? Or whatever. So sadhu sangha, that back to her question, beginning of the chapter. What do I do when you're gone? My husband's gone. What do I do? Sadhu sangha. It's just one last thing, and then we're going to discuss. Burijan Prabhu. Any of you? Okay. Burijan Prabhu is a Prabhupada disciple. It's like a fantastic educator. And he recently said, in relation to Kadamba Swami's departure, this is going to be known as the Decade of Tears, meaning many of the stalwart Vaishnavas of Srila Prabhupada's era are going to depart. It's going to be very sad. The Decade of Tears. Now, what do you do when that happens? Those persons who are the sadhus in your life, you're not the soul that's forever, but their association may not be forever. Physical association, what to do? Without, there's so many anecdotal examples coming to mind where persons lost someone dear to them, a brother or an uncle or a father or something, and it was very difficult. It's not to say make small time of it, but how do you deal with sadhu sangha when it's physically not available anymore? Well, one of the things, there's several things. Quickly, recognize the value that the soul now has of not having to carry a body, and the kleshas that go with having a body, and they're in a much better position, if not with Krishna. So celebrate. And second, this is what Prabhupada wrote about Gandhi. He was a keynote speaker at the Gandhi Memorial Service. Well, not the keynote, one of the his primary speakers because of his past involvement with the Gandhi movement. So you honor that person. Don't just grieve. Honor the person. And the best way to honor the person is not name a street after them. I mean, that's okay, but that's not the best way. He gave other examples. The best way is to conduct one's life according to the teachings of that person. Then he said further, create a community that lives by the teachings of that person, the ideals of that person. Just recently, we were in Gita Nagari. I'm sure those who went or have been there have noticed over to the side there's Bhakti Tirtha Swami's Samadhi, and the president and his wife are disciples of Bhakti Tirtha Swami, and Brajalila and Ekavir. They're staying in the institute. So their dedication is that. And that's solace to the heart. It doesn't have to be that particular entity, but it's a principle. And hear the teachings of and dedicate oneself to live by and promulgate the values held by that great person. And that's solace. And that the spiritual connection isn't broken by birth and death. The spiritual connection, it goes beyond birth and death. And so the person that one is feeling, the sadhu that one is feeling separation from, solace can be there to the heart by carrying on with the service to that person. Sadhu Sangha is generated. Like Prabhupada said, this is the last, I never feel separation from my Guru Maharaj. Now he felt separation from his Guru Maharaj, but he never felt separation because I'm always serving his instruction. He's always assisting me. He saw whatever good fortune came as the mercy of his Guru Maharaj, etc., 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 etc. So that being and remaining despite circumstances, despite good fortune, ill fortune, and all the dualities that are in this navigating our way through material existence, remain fixed. That's the Maya Ananyena Bhavena principle. That's what to do when the sadhus with whom one is feeling well connected are no longer physically available. for association, which is not so dissimilar from what the question Devahuti is asking in the chapter, because Kardamuni, who she's been with for tens of thousands of years, not just, living together, but totally dedicated, selflessly dedicated, and he's gone. Naturally, there's feelings. What to do? So it's instructive, because it's reality. Birth, death, old age, and disease. It's reality. Let's see if there's some discussion.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj. I have a question from last night's class, and
Okay.
So I was wondering, so when Duvida and Lakshmana first met, he didn't have the respect towards Lakshmana, and then
He didn't have what?
respect towards Lakshmana, and that led to offense.
It was a disrespect. He didn't have respect, but it was a disrespect.
Yeah, and then later on, when Duvida saved Lakshmana from his fever, he had the intelligence to ask I want to die by your hands, right? So where did that respect come from?
How did he get an upgrade?
Yeah.
Maybe through association. But there was that's a particular, an Upapurana is making that statement, and the main comment made by our acharyas is two things. He was competitive, which means there was some envy. He wanted the attention and affection of Ram that Lakshman was getting. He was envious, and he was proud. So that's a secondary Purana. The primary one is he was, because of his strength, he was condescending towards Lakshman. That, of course, it's just Leela, but so what? You got hit by the Shakti Shela weapon. Get up, man. He didn't say, but in his mind he was criticizing. He's an arrogant, proud of his strength person. So that's focus on that. And now this Upapurana is an Upapurana. It's not the primary source. But it is an interesting explanation of he had some regard. He revived Lakshman when in another circumstance, and Lakshman was grateful. What can I do for you? Because that's a dharmic principle. So in that Purana, Upapurana, his heart became improved. And how does one's heart become improved? By association and service. So that's the emphasis in that Purana, which isn't the other sources. Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay.
I also have a question from last night's class, Maharaj.
Okay.
We were talking about mental offenses and
Yeah.
how they don't count in this age.
In this age.
So how do we prevent, if we notice ourselves committing mental offenses, how do we prevent them from becoming actions?
Generally, they do. What's inside comes out. So, there's Jaya Dvaita Swami Uvacha. It has the 4 R's. You've heard this one before? Recognition, regret, repentance, reinstatement. Whoops. Because of my disposition, I'm making a mental offense. This is not only for mental, for anything, but actually doing something. So that's a practical 4R's step of procedure. But the first one is the recognition, and that's from introspection. And then humility and sincerity is the regret. And then reinstatement is not just saying. The reinstatement is don't do it again. You may go to we had all that discussion. Go to the person if possible. In the circumstances may or may not be suitable for going to the person. Depends. If when possible, go to the person and express your regret and seek pardon from that person. Whatever the reinstatement method is. Rectification part is, then move on and don't linger in beating yourself up. There's a modern term, I forget, self-deprecation or self something. What's the term? Who knows what the term is? Self something. So don't linger in the mode of ignorance. Go forward towards light. Because we're fallible beings, and on the subtle as well as not so subtle platform, we make mistakes. We have attitudes and thoughts and behaviors that are unbecoming of a Vaishnava because we're not there yet. That's the recognition part. Is that okay? Something else? Yes. You want the microphone?
So what's the difference between sannyas and renounced order of life?
It is the same. The general is the same. Now the distinction I expressed, I'll say it again. A grahasta can also be called a grahasta brahmachari. It's Prabhupada's way, but I'm sure there's some scriptural reference to support that statement. But although married with family and etc., one who is observing the standards that are required of a grahasta, and particularly in terms of sex with wife, that's grahasta brahmachari in Prabhupada's language. So normally they're interchangeable. They're not, hybrid. Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I have some of my friends who are very good devotees.
Good.
But my problem here is I have natural respect to some of my devotees, and at the same time I don't have a very good respect to some of my friends. Like some friends I have a natural respect, and some friends I don't have a natural respect. So I was trying to do, I don't want to disrespect them. So sometimes I was doing
Sometimes you do what?
Sometimes I was trying to do a pretend respect.
Pretend respect.
Yeah, I was doing some external living, so I don't want to disrespect them. So how would I get a natural respect towards them also?
We'll see beyond the covering. What's beyond the covering mean? Beyond the covering means whether they're friend or not. Surah, from the previous verse, you can look at the previous verse, not now, but Surada Sarvadehinam. How do you become a friend of all living entities? You see beyond the covering. Now, how do I do that? Well, practice, but practice guided by Scripture. Here's the covering, and over that's not the person. There's the soul. Now, supposing you have two sets of friends, some who are devotees, some who are not devotees. they're, whether devotees, not devotees, they're parts of Krishna. So it's maybe a little easier to see the devotees may not be like top notch, but they're devotees. I respect the bhakti that's within. Although they're, top notch, they make mistakes, they do things, they say things that are like not so good, but they're devotees. They're on the path to reviving their Krishna consciousness. They got a long way to go. That's okay. That's the bhakti is there. So you see, not only in part, you see the soul through the lens of the bhakti that's being manifest by the soul. So it's not just a covering. It's because bhakti is of the soul, and now they're trying to become clean or pure or free from the contamination of coverings. Let me respect them. Now, you may show respect differently, but in principle, respect. Then there's the non-devotees. And then there's the non-devotees that are just outright mean. But that's not your question. Your question is your friends. But how do you get to the Surida Sarvadehinam? Surid. Suhrit, not just rid. Suhrit. That you become sadhu. You or any one of us become attached to the personality of God under transcendence or truth, your father's words. Then you can see others without, there's differences of feelings. That's natural. You're not supposed to become a stone or numb or something. So you have differences of feelings, but you have a kind regard for all living entities because they're parts of the Supreme who you have attachment to. That's how you become a sadhu, and then you'll be in good shape. Until then, you're gonna, be unsteady and a little in the mixed position. So what to do? Move towards the sadhu position. How to do that? Become pure. How to do that? You follow the process that makes the heart pure. Starts with Cheto Darpana Marjanam, right? You know the verse? You don't know? Shikshastaka 1. Look at Shikshastaka 1. You'll find the answer to your question. Something else? You done? You have something. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki? Jai.